guys, it's Jordan. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you my favorite books of 2016. I have 9 groupings of books to show you today. Didn't rank them this year. I ranked them last year. However, this year these books were all given 5 stars. I had a hard time ranking these 5-star books because I loved them all in different ways for different reasons. Also, differently from last year, I had 10 books. This year I have 9 groupings. So some of them are like an author, some of them are multiple books from the same series. Let's just go ahead and talk about the best books of 2016. Remember, these are in no particular order. First, I have Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. Really enjoyed what she did with this book. It felt so different from her other series. It felt more mature and more developed than her other series because the first time we're reading from a main protagonist who is already a shadow hunter. She knows her shit. And because of that, and because this is like what, the 10th or 11th book in this epic saga, we know our shit, so she didn't have to explain as much to us. It was much more about delving deeper into this world and into the consequences of the world and into the different nuances and the different relationships that develop. We had a lot more emphasis on the Fae in this world. We haven't learned a whole lot about the Fae or their customs or their history. I cannot wait to read Lord of Shadows because this was a fantastic start for the trilogy. Right now, the Infernal Devices is my favorite trilogy by her. When this is over, I don't know. This is really dark. This could be my favorite by the end of it. We'll have to wait and see. Julian becomes more tortured than Will because Will is really my favorite part of the Infernal Devices. Next, I have Gemina by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. I put Illuminae on my list last year as like an honorable mention because I had read it just before I filmed that video and didn't feel that I could adequately say it was a favorite yet, but it's a favorite. It is so a favorite. I'm so impressed by these authors' continued ability to create these rich and wonderful stories on nothing but documents and files and texts and IMs and security footage. Like the fact that they can envelop us in this world so well and make these characters feel so real and make you feel so much of a connection towards them when you're not in their head and you're not in like their point of view. You're reading from like a eagle eye perspective is incredible. It just shows how wonderful their writing is, and they work together so well. The ability that they have to be this creative together is just amazing. I did have some problems with it. I felt it was a little bit too similar to Illuminae. They definitely played on some similar tropes. However, if it happens again in book 3 and it becomes an overarching theme throughout the entire series, I feel like it will really work well, and it will be a nice bridge that combines all of these companion stories together. Gemina made me tear up. I had a lot of books this year that made me tear up. They're all on my list right now because if a book makes me tear up, that says something because I never cry in books. Next, I have Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the final book in the Naturals series, which is one of my favorite YA series. It's a crime mystery thriller series, and it is so well done. This was an explosive ending. This was one of the best conclusions I've ever read. It was like gut punching. I mean, just one thing after another. The connections from book 1 to book 4 and how well she wove it all together. It was so incredibly well done. This is my favorite book of the series. It was sad. It was crazy. It was a wild ride. I just hope that we get more in this world, whether it's a direct spin-off or like a companion series or something. There's so much more she could do with this. It was satisfying, but at the same time, I want more because I just loved the concept so much. I want more books like this in the YA genre. So next I have one of those groupings that I had mentioned earlier, and that is the first 2 books in the Blood of Gods and Royals series by Eleanor Herman, book 1 being Legacy of Kings and book 2 being Empire of Dust. This series, guys, oh my god. This is a reimagined historical retelling of Alexander the Great. Real historical figures coupled with new fictional characters and real historical events coupled with magic and fantastical elements. It takes place in ancient Greece. It feels so authentic. The author is a freaking historian. I can't say enough good things about this series. There's Persian influence in there as well because there's a princess from Persia, and it's just so amazing. It's so good. It's just, I don't have other words to describe this. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did when I first started it, but I was blown away. absolutely blown away. This is one of those series as well that if you love to theorize and kind of like plot what you expect to happen going forward, it's a great one because there's so much mystery and intrigue, and there's different kinds of magic, and different characters possess different types of magic, and the way that she makes it feel like history could have actually been this way, like these characters could have actually been magical creatures. It's just so good. And this is only books 1 and 2. I can only imagine where the rest of the series is going to go because these were so freaking amazing. Also, we got a little bit of a taste of Egypt in the second book, so we're gonna give some Egyptian history thrown in there as well. Just like, stop, Eleanor Herman, stop. You're killing my historical loving heart. I can't. The next one is also one of those couplings, and that is The Conspiracy of Us trilogy by Maggie Hall. The first 2 books, The Conspiracy of Us and Map of Fate. I read them because of Lainey from Ginger Reads Lainey, so thank you, Lainey, for mentioning these on your channel. They are like the Da Vinci Code meets National Treasure meets Chasing Liberty for YA audiences. I can't coherently talk about books that I love because I get so like fangirly about them. National Treasure is one of my favorite movies of all time, and there is treasure hunting. It feels like the Da Vinci Code for younger readers because there's that element of clue finding in one thing leading to the next, it's all tied into history. Plus there's this like higher overruling organization. The main protagonist has something to do with that society. She's not really sure what her purpose is in it. There's some really attractive, steam-worthy, shippable characters in here. It totally took me by surprise. I thought I would enjoy them, but I didn't think I would love them. It's the level that I'm loving them right now. We also need more books like this in YA. More books like this. More treasure hunting, historical, artifact finding books, please. The next grouping I have here is an author. I read 2 of her books earlier this year and 1 book earlier this week, and I was obsessed with all 3 of them. No one for sure made me cry. So you know it's gotta go on this list because that's a big deal. That is Colleen Hoover, and I've read November 9, Ugly Love, and Maybe Someday by her. Maybe Someday is the one that made me cry. I know that there are a lot of people who find her books really problematic, and I'm not saying that they're not. They just, for some reason, get me in the feels like you wouldn't believe. All of them just like make me feel so much for them. Ugly Love was the very first book that I ever read about a main character who was my age. I've never read a character that was my age since I was in high school. It was so refreshing to find a book with a character who I could really relate to, because I read a lot of YA. And unfortunately, I'm not 17 anymore. I had friends that have done this exact thing and attempted it, and it failed and backfired. They experienced a lot of those same feelings that Tate goes through in this book. It's there to help them work through it, you know, as a support system. And so I could really see how accurate like the feelings that Tate went through in this book were, because I have had friends who have had those exact same feelings. It is problematic, but people go through this in real life. Real people make these terrible decisions, and see that it was reflected in a book was very refreshing. I really, really enjoyed it. I am very excited to read more of Colleen Hoover in the upcoming year. These last groupings I have here are probably my favorites of the year. When I say them, you're not gonna be surprised. The first one is the last 2 books in the Sweet Trilogy by Wendy Higgins, the final book being Sweet Reckoning, and then the companion novel from Kaidin's point of view being Sweet Temptation. This book made me bawl like a baby. Kaidin is just one of those tortured bad boys that I love so much. I love the message that she was trying to convey. I just thought it was really well done. I really liked Anna. She was a really naive protagonist. She was really true to herself. Like, she didn't bend her ideals because she had a attractive boy looking at her all dreamy-eyed. So I really liked that she stuck to her morals. I really like how Anna and Kaidin worked together, and just like their relationship, how it was built. Everything about him in this book, reading things from his point of view, was just the most ridiculously heart-wrenching thing I've ever read. It's one of my favorite series of all time. If you like things like The Mortal Instruments, angels and demons, you are going to like these. I'm confident in saying that. So if you're a big Shadowhunter fan, check these out. Ignore the covers. I know they're hideous. The last 2, if you watch my channel, you are probably not going to be surprised that they are at the top of my list this year. If you don't like them, that's fine. I respect your opinion. You don't have to like them. That's why there are billions of books in the world, so that we all have something that we can love and appreciate, and it's not all going to be the same thing. The first one is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, which was another book that made me cry. There are a lot of people who have a lot of issues with this book. I am not one of them. I've enjoyed everything about it. I'm an enjoyment-based reader, so if a book makes me happy, makes me feel good, entertains me, keeps me gripped and enthralled to the very last page, that's what I look for. That's what I want. And Sarah J. Maas's books just do that. They just pull me in, suck me right in, and just keep me harbored in these little pages until the minute I finish. I love all the elements of Hades and Persephone that she included in this. I felt like it was really well inspired by that. I loved the imagery of the night court and how beautiful it was described, and gave me a ton of new characters in this book, and I really enjoyed all of them. I like that Sarah J. Maas can make me care about all of the side characters. Like, they're not just props. They're not just there to better the one main protagonist. They all have really solid personalities. Very nervous for book 3. I'm really excited to see like what the myth legend going to reinvent for book 3 will be. My favorite book of the year is another Sarah J. Maas book, and that is Queen of Shadows. This is my favorite of the series so far, which is ironic because this is the book that has the most polarizing opinions. For me, I loved it and it was amazing. It's everything I ever wanted. There was so much sexual tension and just relationship development between the main ship, two main characters in the main ship. I love sexual tension in books. Sarah J. Maas writes it so damn well. This book actually inspired a slew of videos, and the fact that I made like 3 or 4 videos about this book tells me how much I loved it. A lot of like development, a lot of reveals, a lot of like character stuff going on. I love the new characters that we get to see and how they're developed more, and everything about this book is just my favorite. Again, people hate it. They have every right and valid opinion to say that they hate it, but I also have every right and valid opinion to say that I love it, and I do. It's my favorite of the year. So those are my favorite books of 2016. I read a ton of really great books. I had a lot of 5 stars given out this year. I had a lot of really great 4-star books as well, but these are my favorites. These are the ones that I keep recommending to my friends and my mom, and that I want to reread. If you've read any of these books, I'd love to know what you thought of them in the comments down below. Also, tell me what your favorite book of the year was. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will talk to you very soon. Bye!